Leia, guess
Hmm.
what?
What?
I just sent you a picture of this guy that I'm really into. What do you think?
Oh, hold on. Okay. Well, it looks like he's got a great personality.
I'm Lamont, and Beyonce's my personality trait.
And I'm Leia. Blue hair is my personality trait.
And
And
you're
you're
tuning
tuning
in
in
to
to
the
the
Lamont
Lamont and
and
Leia
Leia
podcast.
podcast. Welcome, everybody. Today we're going to talk about personalities. So today we have a special guest, and his name is Nathan Jones, and he is a fellow podcaster. His podcast is called Life Tips. So go ahead and check it out. Today we're going to be talking about personalities. We're going to find out what his personality is like. We're going to find out what Leia's personality is like. And we're going to find out what my personality is like. So, are you ready to go get him, Leia?
Let's do this.
Welcome, Nate, to the Lamont and Leia podcast. We are so glad that you can join us today. Would you take a few seconds to introduce yourself to our listener and viewer audience?
Sure. So I'm Nate. I am from the Washington, D.C. area, which is also known as the DMV, D.C., Maryland, Virginia. So kind of right on the border of D.C. and I'm in the Maryland side. But again, we're so close to D.C., it's not even funny. Um, I am a podcast host. I am a speaker, and I'm also a Lyft driver, and Christ follower, son, sibling, boyfriend, everything under the sun you can think of.
Sounds great. That's great. So, today we're going to be talking about personalities and personality traits and like
Hmm.
where they come from, how they're developed, and um you, myself, and Leia have all taken the free Meyer-Briggs test. And if you're listening today, we'll have that link for you so you guys can also take that test as well to discover your personality.
Exactly. So make sure you check out all the links in our description. By the way, our description always has all the links that we talk about, including our guests, their contact information, everything. So make sure you're clicking those and reading what is in there. But let's get on to the actual subject.
Yeah. So, have you guys ever thought about what personality is or how you would define personality?
Yeah, I have. I guess we're taking turns, so I'll
Yeah.
go. So I'll
Go ahead.
go first. Um, so for me, personality basically makes up uh, the essence of who you are. And obviously when people ask, about you, we typically give the usual details, of what we call an elevator pitch. But who you really are is actually housed in your personality. And in order to get there, that requires intimate, personal connection with you. That doesn't mean, oh, we're business partners. It doesn't mean, oh, we're associates, because those titles, those labels, they can only take you so far with regard to displaying your personality, because there's only so far, in a business setting that you can go with your personality before you have to rein yourself back in and be professional. With associates, you're rarely ever in contact. They're not really in your core friend group. They just are someone you talk to every couple of months or something like that. the real way you get to see someone's personality is just by actually hanging out with them, being a part of their life, the day to day, the good, the bad, the ugly. And that's how you really see, who they really are come out beyond just the superficial. So that's pretty much, my thought process in terms of like how to actually see personality developed uh, in each other as we go throughout this thing called life.
Mm-hmm.
I really liked your definition of personality. I think my favorite part was the essence of who you are, because I do believe that is true. Leah, did you
Right.
want to did you want to give your definition? No.
Oh,
All
we're
right.
good.
So
I have nothing. That's why.
okay, that's fine. When I think of personality, I think of characteristics or
Mm-hmm.
patterns of thoughts, behaviors, feelings that make up the person, and that might be unique to that person.
Mm-hmm.
And again, like we're always learning, changing, and developing. So I feel like personality does stay core, but you're always able to grow into different
Yes.
areas.
Right. Then that's why I tapped in, the specifics of just, spending time with someone
Mm-hmm.
on a day-to-day basis, because as the days turn into months and the months turn into years, we're always, as you said, growing, changing, and transforming into the best versions of ourselves. And it really comes out when we're able to live life and enjoy each other's company. And if I could be totally transparent, I'd have to say that the pandemic made us robotic in a sense, where we lost a huge chunk of uh, the people person aspect of us as individuals, as humans, as Americans, because of just being cooped up in the house for months on end with literally no other form of human contact except for family. And if you lived by yourself, it was probably worse, because your family was either uh, in a different state or a few minutes away, but like you couldn't go see your family. If you lived by yourself, you just had to just be by yourself in an apartment, in a house, during that entire time period, and just connect with people through FaceTime and video chat and different things like that, which helped a little bit, but it didn't really help us recapture, the essence of personality. And so the pandemic made us robotic to the point where when we were allowed to go back outside, all the stuff started happening, the shootings, the violence, uh, the insurrection at the Capitol. We just stopped tapping into our humanity pretty much. And so, we couldn't really switch it back on when we were allowed to go back outside and all the mandates and stuff were done away with. Um, the other thing that comes to my mind when it comes to personality is the let's see the behavioral pattern that we like to refer to as introvert, extrovert, or ambivertism. That's not a word, but basically what that is that, like, as you assess someone's personality, you can tell by how active they are in conversation, or just even by looking at them, whether they fall in the line of being an extrovert, super outgoing, introvert, super quiet, or ambivert, which is a mix of both. I can tell just by looking at these two right now, since we are, you know, live and we're also physically able to, see each other on screens. I can tell that Lamont and Leah, they work together very well. Their personalities are just a little bit different. I'd have to say that Lamont has a little bit more extroverted tendencies to him than Leah does. Just based off of, the few minutes I've been able to spend with them. So those are just, more of my thoughts on personality that kind of related back to what you were saying.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think you nailed it right on the head, actually. So, and that was only that was our first introduction, and I wish we had a timer, Leah, in 3-5 minutes.
I was thinking during this whole thing so that I can also have my own definition here. But I'm thinking personality is, like Lamont, you said, what makes a person unique. And I think it kind of like what differentiates us from people. So I think it goes in like the triangle, what is it? The triangle of human needs or whatever.
Oh, Maslow's hierarchy of human needs.
Yeah, so I think it's kind of like laid out similarly to that. So at the bottom, we're all human, right? We have things that we share with each other, like wanting to belong, wanting a purpose. And I think one up from there is like what we share with some people, but not everybody. So like introvert, extrovert, religious or not religious, if you respect authority or not, things like that. And then I think one more level comes your personality, which is what you might not share with others, or might not share with too many people. And it's kind of like things that are a little more uniquely you. So like dolphin enthusiast, or like, I can't think of anything else, but I think that at the top is more of like what makes up your personality. Triangular.
Wow, come on, Dr. Leah, coming up with your own theory of personality. Dr. Leah Nakaahiki, no degree needed.
I might have read it somewhere. I'm just relaying it into my own words. Research.
Research is always good.
But yeah, so going off of what both of you guys kind of said, actually.
All right. So we've talked a lot about personality, and we even got what's it called? Analyzed?
Yeah.
Or analyzed. Let's move on to the next thing.
Which is, where does personality come from? Like, how do we develop it? Or create it? Or are we just born with it? Or maybe it's Maybelline.
I think we're definitely born with it, right? Like, babies are born with different, I believe babies have different temperaments. You have your calm babies, you have your loud babies, you have all different kinds of babies. So I do think it's kind of in our DNA, but then as we all know, it's that whole argument of nature versus nurture, and how both of them are combined to make an individual, and it takes both nature and nurture to build up a person.
Right.
Yeah, that reminds me of the research they're doing on serial killers. They have found that there are certain personality traits that to look for, pretty much. I don't remember what they are, but pretty much they've noticed a pattern in a lot of serial killers in which they have a lot of the same personality traits growing up. So there's an argument for and against that personality can be genetic, or at least influenced by genetic things, which is fascinating. I wish I had prepared a little more on that, because it's very interesting.
That is fascinating. Because I would want to kind of argue that serial killers might, and I'm not stigmatizing anyone, but might have sociopathic tendencies. Because I can't imagine being a serial killer and killing or harming someone and having like good feelings or bad feelings. They could. I don't know. I'm not a serial killer, but I that's just I would imagine that they might have like some sociopathic tendencies.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's what they say in the theory too. It's most of the time sociopathic tendencies with certain like cues. Ooh, one of them is harming animals.
Yes, I remember reading that for myself.
Yeah.
The practicing of harming animals and it progressing.
Anyway. So Nate, where does personality come from? What do you think?
So ignore the doorbell and the closing of doors in the background.
Sorry.
So personality. Oof. So it's a mix of what Lamont said and a little bit more. So babies do have unique personalities, and when a baby is born, you instantly, like right off the bat, get a feel or a sense for what type of personality that baby is going to develop as it continues to grow. And as we also know, depending upon the baby's parents, said boy or girl will grow into the personality of whichever parent they cling to the most. Now, in the beginning, I'll say 90% of the clinging goes toward the mom in the beginning. Over time, it reverses itself where that 10% kicks in, and either the young boy or young girl grows out of the dependency on mom and starts to develop more of a dependency or a liking to the dad. So after the couple of months of baby period or years of baby period pass, and you don't need like the breastfeeding and all the other stuff that babies initially need, and you actually start growing and walking and talking and different things like that, that's generally when you start kind of gravitating to one parent or the other. In my case, I gravitated towards my mom and continued to gravitate towards my mom, whereas my sisters, both of them, the oldest and the youngest, gravitated towards my dad over time. The other thing is where personality actually comes from. Me personally, as a God-fearing person, personality comes straight from God himself, and he downloads your personality into you from the moment that you're conceived. And then when you come out and you grow, that's when we get a real sense of, okay, this is the type of person again that you're growing into. Because it's interesting that you would ask that, because my girlfriend and I were watching He's All That on Netflix, the remake
Oh,
of
I
He's All
liked it.
That
I liked it.
from a couple of years ago. I loved it. And what's interesting about that movie is that um, who we mate with is kind of influenced by the personality trait that we have and the personality trait that we would like to have in a significant other, based off of the personality traits that are already around us in the current moment. That's why when people ask, so what are you looking for in a significant other, 9 times out of 10, now you don't really hear the men, having lists and stuff like that. It's mostly the women that have the lists of, oh, he's got to be, 6'1", have a nice car, work a 6-figure job, et cetera, et cetera. But that list, if you think about it, that list of what you want in a significant other when you get older around, I would say, the teenage years, because that's typically when, that stuff starts anyway, 13, 14-ish years of age. That's when you really start to see, okay, I know my personality and I'm still developing my personality, but now I have to get used to someone else's personality alongside all the other personalities I have around me. It's easy with friendships, it's easy with family, because you don't get to choose your family, you're stuck with them. And your friends, you can kind of like bounce in between friendships depending upon your comfort level. It's a little bit more serious when it comes to partner, mate, et cetera, et cetera. And that's one of the things I had to learn about myself last year when I met my girlfriend, was that, hey, your personality and her personality are pretty much identical. And whereas, prior to her previously, the personalities didn't quite match up, which speaks to why some of them either didn't last or were, extremely short-lived. But I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself. I'm gonna come back into the circle of the conversation. But that pretty much is, in my opinion, where personality comes from, and just a little bit more about how it affects us. Tying in the movie.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I agree with what you're saying. Leah in our notes says this is what you call co-created, where you pick up from those around us and people who want to be like, and people you want to be like, or you want to be like us. But yeah, when we're dating someone or we're getting involved with someone, we're going. Hold on. So, Leah, we kind of talked about this before. Like, there's different sides to us, right? It's all me. It's all me. And I have all, like, I can, but like with certain people, a certain aspect comes out. So if I'm dating someone, I'm with a girl or a guy that I like, I might be a little bit different, maybe not too much different, but a little bit different around them because they've influenced me, and now I need to watch out for their behavior. Actually, I think that's kind of like the common comments, without getting too much like into your business, Leia, but like your fiance has a stance on something, and you're kind of like, hey, like, I'm not trying to upset him, so we're taking it day by day to see where we get to a resolution, right? And you're letting that affect you. Whereas if you were single or individual, you'd be like, you know what? I'm gonna go do it. Like, I don't have to answer to nobody. Like, I'm gonna go get it done. So yeah, co-create it, like picking those things, and then you see things in other people that you like, and you want those people to be like you. If you're an anime watcher, there's an anime called Fruits Baskets. And there's the main character, her name is Toru Honda. And I remember posting on Facebook like years ago, like, man, I want the heart of Toru Honda, because she was so loving and kind. And when she was able to be that loving and kind, it set everyone around her them free. And I loved that about her. And I was like, I want that as part of my personality aspect. And I think I've done things to kind of cultivate that. So
It's quite interesting that that Lamont mentioned your current relationship status. And yes, while we do want to keep those details private, the overarching theme that popped into my head as he was sharing those details was basically like, wow, like, okay, first of all, congratulations, that's amazing. And number two, it takes a lot of work to get to that point every day. You're pretty much putting up with someone else's personality. And, within that example that Lamont shared, it was just like, wow, Leah seems so humble, because it takes a humble person to take a step back, when those conflicts and different pressure points arise in the relationship phase, the engagement phase, to say, okay, hey, I don't want to escalate this any further. I should probably take some steps back to calm down. Then I'll bring it back up later when we can come back to some sort of an agreement or a cohesive stance together, so that we can keep the collective bond that we have intact.
Co-created.
Co-created.
But Lamont, you brought up something very interesting that actually leads us into our next little question here. You said that, when you're around different people, you may act a little different, but you're still you on the inside. And I think that is, so our different personality traits that we have, right? They influence our behavior, not shape it. So if you're like a confident person, your behavior will show for the most part that you're confident. So all the different things that you do are going to have some type of situation where you're showing that confidence. But it's always going to be with the basis of that personality trait. So even though around one person you may be more outgoing and another person you're a little less quiet and a little person you're more goofy, they're all going to be influenced by that personality trait that you have. I found a list of personality traits because, when you talk about personality traits, you're like, okay, yeah, I know what that is, but do we? Like, does someone have a list? What are a list? Because there are a lot out there, even though a lot of people try to, simplify it. There's a lot of simplification and something called, the main 5 or whatever, but...
the big 5. I wasn't sure if I was feeling that. Yeah. I was doing some research, and I was like, I'm not sure if I'm feeling this.
Yeah, so I think people try to simplify it, but I found a nice list of personality traits that I liked. Because it was just a long list. So I'll read just a few of them. Sincere, adventurous, caring, dedicated, emotional, loyal, sociable, wholesome, affectionate, cheerful, determined, trusting, fun, ambitious, strong, robust, friendly, devoted, clean, frank, intense, foolish, practical. So I think there's a lot of personality traits, and I think we're all made up of different ones. But I think it was the conversation we were having with our friend John about how at the core, your core self, you have certain personality traits, and everything that you do is influenced by those. Thoughts?
No, I agree. Like I said, I think we are at a core ourselves, but around my friend Caitlin, that dirty, perverted, fun side comes out, and we're joking and being funny and goofy. When I'm around my mom or people of authority, I'm very respectful, very attentive, and stuff. When I'm around Leah, I'm just myself. The co-host of the Lamont N Leah podcast. No. But no, it's just but then I have values, I have beliefs, and I think one thing that people always talk about is Lamont's caring. Lamont listens. Lamont shows up. So these are probably things that are inherent in my personality that probably play it throughout, even though I might be a little bit dirty sometimes, or super respectful, or being an awesome host of an amazing show.
Exactly.
So it's kind of very interesting that you mentioned all those personality traits. It's just simply because, I can relate to Lamont in terms of, the caring side, the loving side, but I'm also honest, truthful. I'll tell you the whole truth and give it to you real. And then also, different people bring out different sides of us. You've got the adults, obviously you got to be, different around your different adults, your bosses, co-workers, but also, depending upon the friend you have, they bring out the best in you. They bring out certain wild sides or certain caring sides you never knew you had before. And I can say for me, the majority of my friends have helped me just be the best version of myself, and also remember that friendship is about showing up and making sure that you cultivate the bond that you want to have in the future, so that uh, God willing, grandkids and different dynamics like that. I've always imagined having kids one day, and uh, you know them meeting some of my friends, and just showing them, hey, mom and dad, we've had these relationships in our lives since we were your age, and it's just been fantastic. And Which reminds me of the Kissing Booth movie series, that I have watched all of them, and the same theme came up, because I'm not going to spoil it for those who haven't watched it, but the Kissing Booth movies basically teach you how to be a really amazing friend, but also how to not be toxic, if that makes any sense. And then, of course, the dating aspect that comes out in those movies, it teaches you, hey, when you're in a really interesting situation, personality wise, it's about growth, and being willing to sit down and really move through the relationship. Because, and again, not to spoil it, but Elle and Noah, their personalities were night and day different, and it took them through a intense journey. Whereas she and Lee had similar personalities to each other. They just didn't have that romantic component. So it's it's different with each person. I know we're going off on tangents, but again, I just wanted to relate that all. I want to relate that all back to what we were saying, because I thought about that. I'm like, wow, if to the outside looking in, having just met these two face to face for the first time, and seeing as of course Leah is engaged, I wonder what her fiance is like. Probably the opposite, because opposites attract, right? Just spitballing an idea, just based off of being around you guys for these couple of minutes. And then Lamont, whoever Lamont is with, yeah, that's a lot of personality. So I hope he or she likes it.
Well, there's nobody, but thank you.
Not yet.
One day, Lamont, one day.
One day. Oh, Leah. Oh, okay. Let's keep going.
Okay. So yeah, we've been talking about how it influences, our personality traits influence, what we do. Yes. But I guess the question would be how? How do personalities work? What is the process in which our personality traits influence our behaviors? And I actually found a video. I know, Lamont. I found a video this time.
Wow.
It was me. I found a video. We're just going to watch less than a minute clip out of it, because it's a long video. But
still in my mood.
Right. I thought it just explained how personalities work a lot more succinct than me. So
Okay.
let me go ahead and open it up. This is explaining kind of how personalities work and how your personality traits influence your behavior, yada yada. Okay.
So let's move on to how personality works. We display traits through something called psychological mechanisms. You need to remember this term too, because it comes up almost as often as traits does. Psychological mechanisms are like traits, except that they are the processes of personality. Now, a process has three parts: the input, the rules, the decision rules in the middle, and then the output. Our traits determine the output, and sometimes they even determine what type of input that we encounter. Let's say you're a courageous person. The input is a dangerous situation, so you have rules in the middle, right? Decision rules. These rules are based on your traits, and they make decisions on how you act. So the output, if you're a courageous person, is to face danger. Now, if you're not a courageous person, the output will be you fleeing the scene. So let's go over these two again. Traits are characteristics and are the individual words that we use to describe people. Mechanisms are the processes that people follow based on these traits.
Oh, I actually like that though. That makes sense to me. I was able to follow that. So like I never thought of that, like how they did the whole process thing, and then the input, the rules, and then the output.
Output, yeah. So I think that kind of goes back to how you're saying. So Lamont, you are a kind person, but when you're with your friend, that's a little more like wild. You act a little more wild with them, but like you're not doing with any ill intentions. Or when you're out with your mom, I think we've talked about this before, like the cell phone thing. She doesn't like when you're on your cell phone, so you put your cell phone away, and that's you being kind. So that's the output. So yeah.
Yeah, sure.
What are some other examples? Let me think. Where's my list of personality traits? Okay. So if you're kind of like a more informal sort of person and you come across a situation like a business meeting, it may dictate that even though it's a business meeting, you want it to be a little more fun. So you try and like crack a few more jokes and whatever to make it more fun than a stuck-up business meeting and whatnot.
Let's take aggressive. So I believe in nonviolence, right? I do. But put your hands on me. Would that be the input?
Yeah.
The rules change quickly. And the output would be you just started violence.
Yeah.
And it didn't have to go that way as long as we would have kept our hands to ourselves and we used our words.
The video actually mentioned that. They're like,
oh, really?
So usually your output, the rules would be dictated by your personality traits. But there are certain cases where you would act outside of your personality traits because of the situation. So in that situation that you gave us, Lamont, you're not an aggressive person. You're a kind person. But if someone's going to throw hands, you know?
It's going down.
It's going down. And so you're acting outside of your personality traits, but we're all humans. It happens, you know, where you're not going to act as you would imagine because of outside stressors. Good and bad. Good and bad. Yes.
Right. I like the job aspect. I like the job aspect that you were referring to in terms of the business setting and different things like that, because that's where we I'll say expand upon personality traits the most, because if we're taking life in stages, majority of the time, from the time you're a baby all the way to teenage years ish, you're not working. Everything's basically paid for. Once you get to the teenage years, you're 16, 17, that age range where it's legally appropriate for you to start working. That's when most of us start getting the typical, Chick-fil-A, Popeyes, those startup jobs. And when you have those startup jobs, they may seem pathetic because, you're only making $8-9 an hour, but they're teaching you how to conduct yourself in the workplace, and it only goes up from there as you continue to grow. So you think about college students who were, out in their fields with their degrees, working in their line of passion. You've got, you know, the coworker aspect where you have to deal with different personalities on your job, and depending upon the types of people that you're surrounded by, you're going to have to either do a tiny bit of adjusting or a lot of adjusting based off of the work environment that you're in. So when you originally said, you know, how do personalities shape or impact what we do, it plays a huge part in what we do like crazy, because, you know, when you're a high school student, you know, the typical thing to do is say, okay, I'm going to go to Stanford or Loyola or or Michigan State, Towson, and major in engineering. And you based that decision off of engineering passion that you had up until that point. But when you get to college and you're actually in your major, then you get down to the nitty gritty, and there's more technical stuff to engineering, to where you can chart a pathway towards graduation to say, okay, this is what type of engineer I want to become, not just, oh, I'm in engineering and I'm going to have an engineering career at, you know, some random facility. No, you get to actually, you know, break it down and, you know, forge where you want to go in life. Now, does it happen that way? Yes and no, depending upon who you are and the path you take, or in past tense, the path you took out of college. But yeah, how your personalities and what you actually do, that does play a major factor, mostly because your decision to craft a career based off your personality is directly tied into what you have a passion for. And it's not so much influence. A lot of the times when we just go off of influence, it's mostly because we have a super dominant parent or a super dominant two-parent household where this is the dream, this is where we want you to go. You see this in movies, and the young person or young people growing up, they don't really get a chance to figure out where they want to go based off their personality trait and their interests, because it's being controlled for them by an outside source. And it typically doesn't end well, because eventually the outside source gets upset because you chose to go in a different direction. So yeah, work and what we do and personality traits, yeah, big topic. I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah. As he was talking, Leah, I kind of thought that was kind of Leia's story, where the dream was getting Leah to the Hawaii school and having her do her degree in, was it
Marine
biology?
biology.
Okay. Like, I was like, marine,
okay.
like in my head, I was like, marine life, like aquatic life. Like, I was like, no, that's not the degree. Like, what was the degree? So marine biology. And yeah, you stuck it out for about a year and a half. And then you're like, you know what? I'm living on my own. And I want to get a digital artwork. Yeah. I have a passion for this. Sorry, Mom. Major change.
Yeah. That was interesting. A very interesting change for her. Aligned more with my personality and things I felt passion for than marine biology did.
All right, Leah. I think it's time for us to take a break.
Okay. Yeah, let's do that. Let's get some water. Stay hydrated.
And we're back. So, are you guys ready to discuss your Myers-Briggs results?
Yep.
Well, before we do that, I think I should tell you guys about Myers-Briggs. So, Myers-Briggs is a test that we all did, and it's a self-report, maybe inventory, designed to help you identify different personality types and strengths and preferences. The questionnaire was developed by Isabel Myers and her mother, Catherine Briggs, based on their work of Carl Jung. And he is a well-known personality theorist in psychology.
Okay.
So, if you click on the link below, you can do your test.
Yeah, so the actual Myers-Briggs test is paid. So there's a link to that. You can check it out. You can pay for it if you want. But there are a few companies, including the one we've linked down below called 16 Personalities, that have taken the concept and done their own version of it based upon the Myers-Briggs test and all the results and stuff. So most of the time, all the information is like the same. So when you take the test, it's a bunch of different questions. A lot of them, and some that I've taken, kind of like repeat but in different wordage, just so that you can kind of like definitely solidify your thought on this one concept. Yeah, because it is made up of it's 4 different dimensions, I think it's called. And each dimension is represented by a letter. And so when you take your test, you'll come out with a series of letters, right? So I just want to kind of like go over what the letters mean. Because some people will be like, yes, I'm an ENF, and they're like, I have no idea what that means.
Yeah, so really quick, have you ever seen like 4 letters on someone's profile and you're like, what is that? They expect that person who ever posted that in their social media expects that you probably have experienced Myers-Briggs or know something about it. And if those letters stand out to you, then maybe you guys can be friends or something more. So, yeah.
Okay, so the first one is E or I. And those stand for extroversion and introversion, which most people are very well, off knowing about already. So it says that's where you focus your attention. The second letter that you'll see will be either S or N, and that is the way in which you take information. S standing for sensing and N standing for intuition. The next one is T or F, which stand for thinking and feeling, and that's how you make your decisions. And the last letter is J or P, which stand for judging and perceiving, and that is how you deal with the world. You can get a more like in-depth definition on what the letters mean and what all of those little terms mean. Put a link in the description, because the Myers-Briggs company have like a table that you can click on each letter and see exactly what they mean. But speaking of the table, I want to go over ours.
All right, let's do it.
We should let our guest go first.
What a great host, Leah.
What a great giving host.
All right, so Nate, what were your results?
Wow. So this was interesting. I actually came out with personality of Consul, which is the letters ESFJ-A, and It says here I am 84% extroverted and 16% introverted. Got about 60% in the observant category in terms of energy, and then of course the intuitive, 40% nature, uh, 70% feeling, 30% thinking, 83% judging, and 17% prospecting in terms of the approach to work, planning, and decision making, and then of course identity, 58% uh, to 42%, and as far as confidence and abilities and decisions. So that was a very accurate. I'll say that was a very accurate description of me, basically, in terms of just the personality traits that I have, and it was kind of cool, doing it and seeing how it all kind of blends together. So yeah, that was pretty much were my results.
Nice. So I went onto the table, the Myers and Briggs table. So we got all of our results, I think, from 16 personalities, right, Lamont? We all did 16 personalities?
Yes.
Okay. So, on the Myers-Briggs website, when you click on the little table, it actually has like a whole list of strengths, development areas, characteristics, careers, stress, relationships. So on the Myers-Briggs test, according to them, ESFJ strengths tend to be sociable and outgoing, understanding what others need, and expressing appreciation for their contributions. They collect the necessary facts to help them make a decision and enjoy setting up effective procedures. Some development areas maybe they may be overly influenced by what they think others want when making decisions, and may find it difficult to adjust to plans in response to unexpected opportunities. So, what do you agree with what they said, or?
Yeah, I mean, that pretty much sums it up because, when you're that type of personality, it is difficult, when changes come to adapt and bring everything back into balance, to be able to move forward in life. So yeah, that sounds accurate to me.
Awesome.
All right.
Lamont, what are you?
Okay, so I am the ENFJ, and I'm known as the protagonist, or
The what?
the protagonist,
Protagonist. Okay.
or the giver. I don't have my results broken down into the very sections because I did mine a while back. But I am the dash A versus the dash T. So there's a difference between the A and the T. I think A is assertive, and then T is what? Leah,
Turbulent. Yeah, so on the 16 personalities, they add a secondary character at the end, which is the A and the T. Let me just, hold on, let me go read that really quickly because I found it interesting as well. Turbulent personality types are typically not comfortable with their current lives. They often use this dissatisfaction to try and become better people. And so I'm assuming assertive is the opposite.
Yeah, we've talked about assertive.
Yeah, we've talked about assertiveness. Yeah, so I like that they added that because I think that does take a little spin on what the personality types would do in like certain situations. So just a little sneak peek. Mine has a T at the end. And I can definitely agree with the phrase that not comfortable with their current lives and they use this dissatisfaction to become better people. I was like, oh yeah, that's me.
So do you basically transfer transition from a T to an A at some point?
I don't know.
That's a good question that we need to figure out.
That is a good question. Yeah.
Okay.
But Lamont, let me read your Myers-Briggs profile, what they said about that.
Okay.
So your strengths are you are able to get the most out of teams by working closely with them and make decisions that respect and take into account the values of others. They tend to be adept at building consensus and inspiring others as leaders. This is true, I think. But some potential areas to work on is these people often talk a lot.
What?
And they may become discouraged if they do not receive a lot of feedback from others. They expect everyone to give as much as to the tasks as they do, and they can find conflict and lack of consensus difficult to deal with.
It is difficult to deal with when there is a lack of consensus.
I was laughing because that's literally what Lamont complains about all the time.
I don't know what you're talking. Why are you trying to drag me right now? I'm just joking. I don't think I talk too much. Do you? Like, I feel like I'm a quiet, little innocent person over here.
Are we talking about the same person?
All right, Leah, you're up.
Yes, I am up. So time to out myself. Actually, so here in my hands, I hold the personality test of high school senior Leah. And I find it interesting because I've actually taken this test, like this exact one from high school. I kept it and I keep recircling things. And I've stayed like in the same box like this whole time. But I keep like
Showing that personality is core.
yeah, like I keep switching between little things, but it all stays in the same like section. So, my current one that I just took like this morning, I have INFPT, which is a mediator. Strange to me. Don't know why they use that word. I wouldn't say mediator. But high school Leah was an ENFJ ENFP, which is like the same thing. Just more introverted now, I guess. But let me read a little bit about INFP. So yeah, more introverted than extroverted. Energy is more intuitive than observant. Nature is I rely more on my feeling than thinking.
That seems to bother you.
It does bother me. That bothers me. Prospecting versus more so than judging, and turbulent versus assertive. So according to the Myers-Briggs personality profile, that what was it? INFP. Let's see. INFP people enjoy devising creative solutions. Correct. Making moral commitments to what they believe in. They enjoy helping others with their growth and inner development to reach their full potential. INFPs may struggle to speak up in meetings, leading others to believe that they don't care or have nothing to contribute. They risk failing to convince others of the merit of their ideas.
You know, Leah, I had a friend that was tuning into our podcast, and I think one of the criticisms that he shared with me that I didn't share with you at the time was that he feels like you didn't speak up a lot. And I was like, no, she does. Like I don't know what you're talking about. Like, she actually does, like, give a lot of input. I was like, just wait. We're just getting started. Maybe it's just new, but like, she'll be fine. She'll grow into it, and she's gonna be phenomenal. And like, most of the comments that we get now is like, Leah has an amazing voice for podcasts. Leah is so amazing. I love listening to her. You know, so that friend was kind of wrong, but maybe he was picking up on that initial like hesitancy.
Possibly. But yeah, so I know it can kind of like change over the years, but I'm not really pleased with the one I took today. I feel like I vibe more with the one that I took a few years ago, in which I got INFJ instead of P, which, what did J and P stand for again? Judging versus prospecting, which is how you live. Judging versus perceiving. Hold on. I need to read my notes again. I have so many
I think
notes.
it's perceiving. That sounds right.
Yeah, perceiving. It's how you deal with the world. And so let's read 16-year-old Leah's notes here from high school. Judgmental dealing with the world is choosing closure over other options, being really urgent until you make a decision, sense of satisfaction once the decision is made, establishing deadlines, self-discipline, work before play, a lot of preparation and planning, pressuring and rigid, disorganization. I was like, not really. Whereas a more perceiving outlook is you keep your options open, resistance in making decisions, having a feeling of restlessness after a decision, procrastination, set deadlines but press snooze, needs work to be enjoyable. I think I wrote procrastinating twice. So, I mean, I don't know. I think I go back and forth a lot of the time, but for the most part, it is interesting to me when it's so close.
Yeah.
It's kind of eerie.
You know what was interesting? I did a different test with a different company when I was working with them, and they used this to like understand each other so we could like have better relationships and work with each other's. And I had originally scored low in all areas. Like not low, but like it came up with my thing, and I was like, this is who you are as a worker. And then I took it a few years later while I was in the same position, and I scored higher, but in the same exact areas. And so I was like, I wonder what kind of day I was having when I took that test versus the day I'm having now. Because today I feel incredible and strong. And so also I think I looked up some words I didn't understand when I first took it, because I was like, you know what, I never really understood it. And so when I looked it up and I was like, oh, okay, and like I just answered some things, and then it was a higher score. But like it was the same letters, or I don't think they did letters, it was something, same numbers, something, but higher.
Yeah. I think that is the like downside to this type of test, because you're self-reporting, right?
Right.
So it's really hard to differentiate with some of the questions if it's something you actually do or something you want to do. So hold on, I have a list of the questions. At a party, do you interact with many, even strangers, or interact only with friends? So it's like, how do you answer something like that? Because if I'm not feeling good, then I'm probably just going to interact with my friends. If I'm feeling uncomfortable for any reason, I'm going to just talk to my friends. But if I'm having a great time, I'm feeling myself, I'm dressed real good, I'm going to meet everybody, like, hi.
Right. Same, because I was thinking even myself, because I'm an extrovert, right? Like, well, how am I feeling that day? Like, that was the first thing. Like, am I in a mood to, like, talk to other people? I may not be in the mood to talk to other people. I might be like, I'm here for my friends, and I'm here to live it up with my friends, and that's it.
Yeah, so another question is here, are you more interested in what is actual or what is possible?
That's so hard.
It's just like, I want to say what is possible,
Yeah,
but, like,
because I want to say what is actual, but then, like, I'm like,
but realistically, yeah, exactly. So I think there are a downside to these Yeah, I think there's a downside to these because it is self-reporting and it can change depending on like your mood for that day, your situation you're in, high school versus post college. So it's
Right.
like,
So many different experiences.
yeah. And so a
Or
lot of
not different, many more experiences.
more experience, yeah. So a lot of people kind of say, "Oh, personality tests don't work at all." Um,
I disagree.
yeah, I think they can, but take it with a grain of salt.
Take it with a grain of salt, but again, like I think it goes back to that core, like who are you at your core value, and then allow for the slight changes.
Yeah. So like even if you compare my high school results to today's results, they're all within the same realm. Like it hasn't changed. I'm not all of a sudden a super scientific minded guardian, you know? Like it's not happening. So, grain of salt.
They're good, especially in a business setting, depending upon, of course, the area of concentration that you're going in. But yes, I do agree. Take it with a grain of salt because the personality test doesn't define who you are on
Agreed.
the inside. Who you are on the inside overrules the personality test because you can change, you can develop, and there will be things that you will take away from to build upon in the future as life goes on.
I agree. And when taking these tests or any kind of tests, like these personality tests, because there's so many out there, there's so many, they're tools to help you learn more about yourself. And so take them seriously, but also don't take them so seriously to where you block out everything else or you limit yourself to possible growth or stuff.
Good point.
Like,
Good point.
yeah. So I think they are great tools to help you learn more about yourself, to discover more about yourself, and we're all about that at the Lamont N Leah podcast.
Yes. That's all I have to say about the test. I think it's interesting.
Yeah.
If you guys have taken it, let us know in the comments what you
Yes.
got. If you agree with it, if you haven't taken it, go take it.
Disagree with it. If you agree with it, disagree with it, let us know your letters. Let us know how those letters show up for you in your life. We want to hear from you. Nate, thank you so much for coming on to the Lamont and Leah podcast and talking with us today.
Not a problem. Not a problem.
So if people wanted to get in contact with you, maybe have you on their podcast or just continue this conversation or have other conversations with you, what would be the best way for them to contact you?
So, in the age of social media would be the best way to get in touch with me. You can follow me on Instagram at Nate_the_speaker or _orator Nate. You can also find me on Twitter at authgenperson. I'll send you all the social media links for that, so you can put that in the show notes. And yeah, y'all can go check out my show at anchor.fm/life tips. Send me a message there. And yeah, just social media is the way to go. I'm available for bookings on my website, and the link to that is I believe in my Twitter bio. And yeah, so tap in with me and let's connect.
And finally, Nate, is there any message that you just want to share from your heart? It doesn't have to be about today's subject, but like something you just want people to know and understand from you. That would be really cool.
Sure. Simply put, just make the most of every opportunity you've got, because we see it all around us, and there's no hiding it. The death toll is just rising out of control. And unfortunately, once you're gone, you can't come back. So pretty much, yeah, take everything in stride, use your time wisely, and make the most of every opportunity you've got, whether it's, to be in someone's life, or whether it's work related, whatever it is, just make the most of every opportunity, because once you're gone, you're gone. What do you want people to say about you at your funeral? Think about it.
All right. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you once again for joining us today. We really appreciate it.
Sure.
Thank you to our viewers and listeners, and we'll see you next week.
Today's life lesson is self-exploration. It's worth it. Many of us are going on journeys, and our journeys take us to different parts of who we are, and we learn more about ourselves. It starts from the day we're born and hopefully ends until the day we die. Leaning in to those moments, being more aware of this exploration, can enlighten our hearts and bring us closer to our truer selves. So continue to lean in to the exploration of yourself, because it's worth it. And that is today's life lesson.